welcome again. We did it. We welcome again. We did it. We persevered past one episode, um, and we're back. Welcome back to Learning the Legends. Today, it is once again myself, Quinn, and my co-host Dave.
Hello.
And last time we talked about Jinx and a bit about her antics in Piltover and a little bit about Zon. And so I thought to myself, I think it'll be a lot easier to explain a lot more characters if we talk about maybe the different places that these characters are actually from. Because just the environments themselves can kind of be a little bit more telling as to, oh, this character might be more like this character might be more like that. Like, now you know anyone from Piltover is probably a little bit more like augmented or maybe mechanical or likes crafting. Right? You can kind of get a vibe of what that character might be like. So I feel like that might be a little bit better to explain going forward. And anyone who knows anything about the League, its universe is very big. So we thought that it would be good to maybe split this up into two parts. So we're going to go through 4 of the nations today. Going to go through 4 of them next week, and we already covered the other 2 in brief detail in the last episode, which was Piltover and Zon. We're going to go brief detail into these things, not super, like, everything about them. We'll probably have their own episode, maybe along with, like, a character. Because some of these places are really cool, and then there are other places that are like it's really hard to get into the nitty gritty without getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, so don't rush to your keyboards and be like, you forgot this. Yes, we know.
Yeah, I
We're
know.
aware. But do let us know that you're looking forward to that in the next episode, so that we make sure to hit on the notes that you actually do want to hear that we didn't mention.
Absolutely. And I want to say thank you to anyone who did get to watch the first episode. We were very surprised to see that there was more than 2. So we're very happy. Thank you.
We promise to try to get better equipment as we go.
Yes. But I think with all that being said, I think we're good to kind of jump in. Unless there's anything you want to say or ask before we start.
No, I think I'm good. I did watch the videos that you sent me, so I'm interested to see what you have to say on them.
Yes.
And which ones we're actually going to be talking about, because I just sort of watched them all.
That's a good idea. But today, we will be exploring Runeterra. And we will begin exploring. And now, as you can see, again, I should probably preface this. Anyone who watches on Spotify might not, or listens to on Spotify, might not get the full experience of these next 2 episodes. Because if you are watching visually on YouTube, I have the interactive map up, and I'm going to be kind of moving around on that. So you should get still the full experience on Spotify, but you might get maybe a more informative one if you watched it visually. But with that being said, we are going to start off today in one of these nations, and we're going to start off getting rid of the one that I'm not super fond of, but it's really important, and that is DEMACIA. Now, the place that we're actually in is called Runeterra. And Runeterra, it's basically Earth. And it is named Runeterra because the Celestials that that created the world used these things called world runes. And because the runes were used to craft the world, it's Runeterra. And these Celestials are actually some of the characters you can play in game, which I think is kind of cool. And we'll talk a lot about them when we get to Targon. But to talk about DEMACIA, we gotta figure out kind of why DEMACIA is here. And the reason is because when the world was formed, these world runes are extremely powerful. Obviously, they create planets. And
damn, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. But after they were used by the Celestials, they were scattered across across Runeterra. And after centuries of life kind of building up, humanity came around, and they ended up finding these runes. Um, Now, if there's one thing you know about humans, is they're very vengeful. And so a lot of these people who got these runes basically kind of started nuking their neighbors, um, and just like blowing up cities and nations as they pleased. Uh,
It's kind of a dick thing to do.
yeah, oh yeah, it wasn't fun. And Runeterra underwent something called the Rune Wars, and that is a huge event that that to still to this day in the lore, there are still some places like still trying to recover from this. Uh, and because these rune wars were so devastating and so almost cataclysmic, uh, a lot of the people decided we need to get the fuck out of here and find a new place. And they made their way to this forest of like gray and white trees. And what they found is that the bark of this tree, or these trees, they absorb and nullify magic. Meaning the devastation from these runes couldn't touch this place because magic really can't inhabit this forest of like these white trees.
So I'm waiting for the next thing to be. So they chop them down.
So they chopped them down.
Yep.
And they figured out that with this bark, the bark of these trees, I think was limestone and ash, and it might be a couple other things in there. Mix it all together, and you get something called petricite, which is a very strong material that can absorb and nullify magic. So these people, they were led by a man named Orlon. He started or like oversaw a lot of the construction of what is now known as DEMACIA. Um, but it didn't just like overnight grow to DEMACIA. DEMACIA is huge now. It doesn't have a lot of land. If we look on here, you can see that's its area, that's its borders. Um, but
That's not too bad.
no, it's not terrible. But DEMACIA is very no magic. Like if we see here, uh, oh well, it's not there. But they have a very low tolerance for magic. They have something called the Mage Seekers, which are basically a group of people that, well, actually, if anyone knows anything about Arthurian times, kind of think of DEMACIA as almost like Camelot, where like no magic, um, and all that kind of stuff. Like
I mean, Merlin?
oh, sorry. If you listen to, if anyone watches the Merlin series, that's
Oh,
very much what Camelot was like.
right, okay, yeah, I know that show.
Yeah, Uther Pendragon didn't like all the magic stuff, so it was banned. Anyway, that's kind of what this place is. They don't like magic because the Rune Wars devastated so many places that they want to keep it out. But after DEMACIA started getting built, there was a guy named, I think his name is Keelam or Kylam. Anyway, he had two daughters named Kale and Morgana. And he took them to DEMACIA, and they received the blessings of the aspects of justice. And they became big players in DEMACIA for a little while. They were protectors, and Kale looked very angelic, and she was beloved by the people, and she always tried to do everything by the law. And Morgana wasn't in the spotlight as much and kind of started to grow a little bit resentful. And like, and this was like a long time ago. We'll go over an actual official timeline when we kind of figure everything out, because if I just start placing things on the timeline right now, I feel like it might be confusing.
Okay, fair enough.
So with Kale and Morgana starting to become bigger players in here, the Demacians started to call them like the winged protectors and everything. So if you actually look at um, a lot of their stuff, you can see like wings in a lot of their architecture, and here like you can see the two winged protectors and all that stuff, and that's because of
I was
Kale
gonna
and Morgana.
ask,
Hmm.
I was going to ask about that because I was looking at that one picture, not that one, but the one below it, um, with the statue in the middle. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at that one, and I was going to ask if those were like heroes, if they were the gods, if that like if that was anybody
Yep,
particular.
that's supposed to represent
That
Kale and Morgana. Um, and they, well, I don't know if it's supposed to represent them like specifically, but that is the reason that a lot of these wings are used in a lot of heroic stuff because they were the winged protectors at the time.
okay.
And if anyone watches the Warriors music video that was released, I think last year, the year before, um, there's a bunch of nations, like a bunch of stuff is happening. But one of the things that's happening in that music video is Demacia is being under attack, is going under attack by a man named Silas, and we'll talk about him in his own episode. But he plays a decent role in Demacia because he's a mage that they have locked up. Um, and Demacia has a gargoyle that is constructed almost completely out of this petrocite, and his name is Galio. Uh, and
So wait, how does a gargoyle work? If it's wouldn't that mean huh?
it,
Wouldn't you need magic to make it work? But how would that?
so when we talk about Galio, we'll talk about how it all worked. But I believe it was Orlon who put I think he put a charm or something on. Um, this is why I don't like Demacia, because like they're hypocrites, right? Like magic is not allowed unless unless they're like a big wig, and then magic's maybe okay.
Oh,
Um,
jeez. Sounds
so
like the Inquisition from Warhammer.
yeah, yeah,
Psychers are bad, but hey, let's use a psyker.
yeah. I don't like Demacia, they're like ugh. They're just very privileged and Papa's boys. Um, but Orlon, it was actually kind of funny. He carried this giant hammer, and this hammer was said to give immense power to the rightful owner, kind of like a Mjolnir situation.
Okay.
Um, it really sucks that Orlon is not the rightful owner. So
Oh,
after all the construction and whatnot started becoming more finalized, he went out on a quest to try to find out who the rightful owner was. And then he died, and he
oh,
didn't never found it. But someone, a small yordle who now lives in Demacia named Poppy, did find the hammer, and she picked it up and is now in search of the hero. But there's a pretty good chance that she's the hero and she just won't accept it. Um,
I can understand that.
yeah,
I can understand that.
she's and by like not accepting it, I mean like she's like no, it couldn't be me. Like there's someone's way stronger. Uh,
But you're the only one who can use
yeah,
the hammer.
yeah. But that's kind of a overview of Demacia. They're very anti-magic. They have a
I gotta
very
say,
pardon.
well, I was gonna say when I watched the video, there was one of I recognize some of these portraits here,
Yes.
and yeah, they kind of reminded me of like the Alliance from like Warcraft, where
Yeah.
we are the good, we are the humans, we are on the right. I have no idea if they are or not, but they kind of had that same feel as like the Alliance.
Yeah. They are very alliance-like. If you want to kind of reference World of Warcraft, if you were to reference so that's something like Warhammer, yeah, like you said, the Inquisition, or they're kind of like the Ultramarines, where like they're like everything Demacia.
Oh
Um,
God.
and I mean, like they're strong. Don't get me wrong; like they are strong. Like their big players are Garen and Lux. They're brother and sister, and they're like they're big.
Was she the one with the rapier?
No, that is Fiora, I believe. Lux
Okay.
is if you watch the Warriors music video, she's the one who shines the light in the air and calls Galio.
I don't think you sent me that one, or if you did, I did not click on it
That's all
for
good.
some reason.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of an overview of Demacia without getting too into it. You can see its land here if you're watching. Um, this is some of the more notable places in Demacia, and that's kind of all we'll talk about it for now, before without getting too much into it, and we'll move right up along to the icy spots of the Freljord.
Is that why it looks like it's sparkling?
What, this?
Yeah, it looks like it's, at least on my screen, it looks like it's sparkling. I don't know if that's supposed to be snow.
Uh, so it's shimmering. Yeah, there's a lot of like frost and stuff like that over it.
Okay.
But also, if you're seeing, and we're not going to talk about this place today. We'll probably do that in a little bit of another episode. If you see right here, here's a little portal to Bandle City where all the Yordles are from.
Ooh.
Um,
Honestly, I'm more curious about a place called Village of the Ice Children.
uh,
That sounds both terrifying and like it has a good story.
yeah. So Freljord is really, really cool because it is one nation divided into three, really. Like three big nations, kind of. Well, one big nation divided into three. You have the the Avarosans, who are led by Ash, and they follow the teachings of Avarosa, who was Ash's grandmother. They want to unite the Freljord under one banner, and really like unite the Freljord as to what it could be, one unified nation. Um, you have the Winter's Claw, which are also known as the Beast Tribes, led by Sejuani, and they believe almost in the same thing that the Avarosans do, except they want all of Freljord to be. They're very warlike, and they want to expand their territory. So they want the Freljord to basically be all of theirs and unite it. Um, and then there is one other little faction called the Frostguard, and on the outside they look kind of like the protectors of the ancient temples and whatnot. But really, they are a cult kind of shrouded in mystery, and with the mystery also comes a mysterious leader who is named Lysandra, and she and the Frostguard have a very, very not cool plan. And what they want to do is they want to release the Watchers into reality. And the Watchers, you know Lovecraft?
Yes.
All right, think that. That's what the Watchers are. They're like indescribable, horrible beings that don't.
Oh, so the old ones.
Yeah, yeah. And when we go over the actual full events and timeline of the overarching story, we'll talk a lot about the Watchers. Uh,
So are they like those weird? When I was watching the video, those were like the weird guys that kind of looked like a reject from the Thor movie. When they kind of like they had the bow, they were gonna kill the baby. Is that tribe?
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the Frostguard. Yes, if you watch the Tales of
Okay.
Runeterra Freljord video, the people that are up on the edge with the archers, yeah, yeah, yeah. Those are the Frostguard.
Okay. So are those actual people, or are those like a demony conjured thing?
Uh,
I'm just curious to
yeah,
kind of get like an
it's.
idea.
I think it's a bit of both. Some of them, I believe, are kind of like ice revenants. That Lysandra is an ice witch, so
Hmm.
she
Okay.
can kind of create these living statues of ice. So that's another reason why it's kind of hard to say whether they are or aren't.
So it's safe to say that some of them are reanimated, and some of them could be like willingly have given themselves over to it.
Uh, as far as I could tell when I was doing my research, yeah, um,
Okay.
it
All
seemed
right.
that
I just was trying to get an idea.
yeah, 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 for sure. But Freljord is full of a bunch of cool characters. So, but the main three that you'll hear about are Ash, Sejuani, and Lysandra because they're the three like leaders of the tribes. Um, but there are a bunch of cool ones. Like I think in the last episode you mentioned that you know the character's name at least, Braum.
Yes, yes, I know. I through you, I've heard of Brom, and because the only other thing I kind of knew about League, just through pictures and stuff, were the little Poro guys. So I remember mentioning them to you, and then you mentioned Brom. And I was gonna ask, like, where does he fall in all of this? Because I know he's from here.
Yes. So I believe he is part of the Avarosan clan. Um, and the yeah, I believe he's part of the Avarosan clan, and he kind of helps them out. And he carries the big shield with the door, and that's actually that shield is the door to, I believe it was Orn's forge. Um, I think that's what it was. And Orn is one of the old gods of Runeterra. Um,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, there's a couple old gods that came from Runeterra that helped shape the earth. So Orn and Volibear are two of the bigger ones, and they created the mountains and the rivers um, that you see throughout Runeterra, and it is said that Anivia created all the ice and the snow.
Hmm.
Uh, and There's a couple more of them, but again, we'll talk more about the old gods and the creation of Runeterra when we talk about Targon in the next episode. Uh, and Freljord is constantly at war with each other, and they're constantly making like political marriages um, to expand their land, um, or they're raiding each other to expand their land, or if you're the Frostguard, you're kind of just chilling out watching everyone do it while you plans within plans. Um, and yeah, that's kind of it for the Freljord without kind of telling you too much about too many different characters at once. Um, the big things to note here: a lot of ice and a lot of feuding.
So, was that a rabbit I saw as part of one of the heroes, or not a rabbit, like a bunny, or
Uh,
like that pink thing
right.
right next to Brom?
This is Nunu and Willem.
So what does that mean?
Oh yeah. Nunu is a child, I believe. I don't think he's a Yordle. I think he's just an actual child who um, he ended up finding a Yeti, and he tamed the Yeti. And the Yeti's name is Willem, and now they travel together. Uh, that's like the the shortest that I can make his backstory is he rides a
No,
Yeti named
that
Willem.
works. I just from I don't know, maybe it's just my weird eyes at this time. It's just it looked like a rabbit, and I have to ask about that.
This is Ash. This is Lysandra, and this is Sejuani. Um, and yeah, that's Freljord. And we will move from the Freljord all the way over here, something called the Shadow Isles. And if you look at our lovely logo, the Shadow Isles is where I'm from. It's where my Poro's from. Uh, but before I talk about the Shadow Isles, I want to talk briefly about a character named Mordekaiser. And he's important to the overarching story, uh, but as well as to kind of Shadow Isles and the next place we're going to talk about. And Mordekaiser, he lived, I think, from current day, I think he lived about 600 or 1200 something years ago. His reign was, I think, 600 years. But he ruled over a large part of Runeterra. Um, so, like, you see where it says Noxus and DEMACIA,
Yeah.
kind of like around there, like in between there is kind of where he was ruling. And his reign lasted, like I said, I think for a total of like 600 years. But he was known as the Warlord King, and the reason he was known like that is because he not only did he lead his troops or whatever, but he led his troops into battle. Like he would not allow his troops to fight without him. Uh,
So it wasn't a good reign for the most part.
uh,
I mean, maybe if you were a warrior, but it wasn't a good reign for his neighbors.
no, he was a warlord. Like he just went around and killed people, and expanded his territory. Eventually, a bunch of the neighboring nations got together, and they finally killed him. But as he died, he He was like stabbed. I think he was like finally his armor got pierced, and while being stabbed, all he could do was just laugh the entire time as his life just left his body. Um, and
Well,
then
that's not terrifying.
yeah, and then the people who defeated him took his body and with his armor still on, and he's a big guy. He's like I don't even know the size, but he's definitely over 7 feet tall. Like he's huge. Um, and at least I think so. He's got to be. His armor's massive, and he carries this giant mace.
It's just a tiny guy in this big, massive set of
Yeah,
armor.
it's like a
You'll never
yeah,
know.
like a little mech situation.
Yeah.
Uh, what's a fuck? Anyway, Mordekaiser, he's cool. He ended up dying. They burnt him at the stake with his armor on, and they partied and celebrated, and they left
So
his
they were
body
like
there.
they pulled the Ewok village, man. They just burned him alive and like, all right, let's party around the
Pretty
body.
much.
What the hell?
And
That's kind of morbid.
they well, I mean, to be fair, after what everything he's done, uh,
I guess.
he they left his body there though, and a bunch of his followers went and took his body, and they took his armor, and they brought it back to his like stronghold, and they performed a very very dark ritual to be able to reanimate him and put his soul back into his armor. Um, and so they took his skeleton and were able to reanimate it, and the armor like just all like shot to his body and kind of like Iron Man when he like the suit just goes onto him. It was like
So,
Mhm.
so this is like an Edward from Full
yeah,
Metal kind of thing where there's nothing in this armor.
basically yeah.
Oh,
And but it was Mordekaiser. He had risen, but basically as a lich. And he then created something called the Immortal Bastion, which is a giant structure that they held his skeleton in, which was basically his phylactery. Um, so Mordekaiser was around to reign again, and he did. And every time he died, his followers just like went and grabbed the armor, and brought it back and revived him again. Uh,
seems a little OP.
it was until this kept going on for a while, and then some monks from somewhere called the Blessed Isles came around, and uh, they why am I losing my train of thought? Oh my gosh. They went and stole the skull. They stole Mordekaiser's skull, so his skeleton wasn't complete anymore. Uh, and they hid it away in some vault inside the Blessed Isles. And if you're looking on the map, thinking, "Where the hell are the Blessed Isles?" They don't exist anymore. Um,
Oh,
and we'll
I was
talk
gonna ask, like, why are you not showing me where these are?
because they don't exist. And we'll talk about why. So after the skull was taken and hidden away, the followers couldn't find it. It was hidden away from the world, and so Mordekaiser's reign was finally, seemingly, at an end. And centuries went by, kingdoms came, kingdoms went. One of those kingdoms was right around this Blessed Isles, and the queen of this kingdom fell ill one day. She was poisoned, and the king, uh, who we now know, for a long time we didn't know who he was, but now we know his name is Viego. Um,
That just sounds like an evil name.
yeah, it does, doesn't it? So if you watch the Ruination video, he's the guy who walks out of the mist with the giant like green sword. Um,
Oh, so he looks evil too. That's good to know.
yeah, just a little bit.
All right, I'm glad the name fits the body.
Yeah. Um, but anyway, Viego was distraught over his queen being poisoned, and he called for every priest and every cleric and every healer that was in his kingdom, but no one could cure this poison. And so he called for his like most trusted ally, his right hand person, which was a warrior named Callista. And he told Callista, he's like, you need to go out and you need to find some cure for my queen. And she's like, okay, I can do that, but I'm not leaving you alone. So she leaves the the captain of the Knights of the Iron Order named Hecarim. She leaves him with the king, who's like, hey, protect him. He's kind of going through some stuff right now. Uh, and she leaves. And she travels for weeks, and she finally ends up at this place called the Blessed Isles. And she meets some monks there, and she tells them her predicament, says, hey, the queen is poisoned. Um, and none of our healers can do anything. Is there any way you can help? The monks were like, yeah, if she's poisoned, we can cure almost any illness. Come bring her over, and we'll be good. And Callista's like, sick nasty. So she gets back on her horse and rides away. And she goes back to the kingdom, and it is just in ruins. All she can see is just bodies laid in front of the king's chamber, and Hecarim standing there with his bloodied weapon. And it turns out the king had gone mad because the queen had died. She's no
Oh,
longer poisoned; she's now dead, and he is now inside of his chambers, or he was inside of his chambers, and he told Hecarim to kill anyone who would try to get in. Well, he's basically just in there, like, with this corpse. And Hecarim, the thing you gotta know about Hecarim is he is a kiss ass. And
mm,
he was like, "Why, yes, of course," and wanted to prove his loyalty. And so he just started killing anyone who was trying to help, anyone who tried to get into this room. He just slaughtered without mercy. And
that seems bad.
Callista was like, "What the fuck?" And she refused to say anything. She was so distraught and couldn't comprehend what was going on. And now that she figured out the queen was dead, she didn't think there was any point in saying anything. So she did, and the king saw this as an act of treason and locked her up. Hecarim came and visited her and was like, "Hey, the only way this is going to get better is if we revive the queen." And Callista's like, "Yeah, probably." And so he lets out Callista, and Callista tells the king, "All right, I'll lead you to the Blessed Isles." So they drag this corpse to the Blessed Isles. They all ride over there, and the king immediately starts telling these monks, like, you need to revive my queen. You said you could do it, now do it." And the monks are like, "Yeah, we could heal your queen, but we're not going to revive her. Like, messing with life and death is not cool." And the king was not having it. Viego,
I was gonna say.
not okay with this. So he uh, orders Callista to slaughter all the monks. And Callista was like, I don't, no, absolutely not. Um, and she looks to Hecarim and is like, come on, like, we got to talk some sense into him. Like, obviously, we're not just gonna kill all these. And before she could even like tell him, like, hey, we need to. His spear was already through her back as he was ready to just to start killing these monks and to prove his loyalty.
I think he just likes killing. I don't think it's proving anything. I
Yeah,
think he just likes to kill shit.
and so he kills Callista and then starts killing all these monks. And there is one monk left who starts pleading and begging for his life and says, "All right, fine, I'll show you how to do the ritual." And they perform the ritual, and this ritual revives the queen. Remember how we were talking about Full Metal? What did
Uh-oh.
we learn? First episode, what did we
Don't
learn?
revive things. Don't revive people.
Don't revive people.
I feel like this was taught to us in Aladdin. I don't want to raise the dead. It's not a pretty picture.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this queen is basically just a decrepit corpse that is just begging for release. And Viego sees this, and it finally clicks. It clicks into him, and he's like, "Oh shit, what have I done?" And he's like, I can't live with this." And so he gets ready to prepare a spell that's going to just end everything. It's going to It's going to destroy him, and it'll destroy the queen, and it'll destroy everyone around him, and it'll be he can finally be with his queen.
So like a magic nuclear bomb.
Pretty much. Except this magic nuclear bomb, um, they were in the Blessed Isles, and there was a vault near these Blessed Isles that had a bunch of artifacts collected by a man named Thresh. And if you watch the Tales of Runeterra Shadow Isles, that's the guy who like has the lantern and the big hook. That's what he looks like after this spell.
Okay.
And this spell gets buffed up by all these different magical artifacts that are just seeping with power. And do you want to know what one of the artifacts were?
The skull.
It was the skull of Mordekaiser. And with that, the spell was like buffed up too much, and it went out of control, and it cracked everything. The entire island just got split, and it released something called the Black Mist, which changed everything into like these abominations. Hecarim tried to run away from it as this mist started, and he got on his horse and started running away, but the mist enveloped him, and he got fused with the horse. And now Hecarim is actually like a ghostly centaur that roams the island. Callista got revived, and Hecarim's spear came out of her, and she is now actually the spirit of vengeance. People can call upon her if they've been backstabbed or wronged or whatnot, and she will come and as at a price, she will come and like seek vengeance for you. And
That's kind of cool.
usually only happens around Bilgewater, because if you see the Shadow Isles and Bilgewater are really close. These Blessed Isles turned into what are now known as the Shadow Isles because of this mist. Started just turning everything into these undead abominations, and like you can see the mist all around it.
Okay, so that's what that weird shimmer is.
Mm-hmm. And this is what the Blessed Isles looked like beforehand. Like all these nice little things.
Oh, that's peaceful.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, there was a bunch of.
So is this where the kid was lighting the torches?
Yep. But you can see the Shadow Isles. The Shadow Isles now look like this. All the flooded cities. Yeah, all the vaults have been sunken in. There's a giant crater. Like, this place is not where you want to be. And yeah, it became basically Viego's the new kingdom, and it now there is now something in Runeterra called the Harrowing, and that happens every, I'd say maybe our time at the end of October, around that time, and that is one day that the mist can leave the Shadow Isles and spread all across Runeterra.
So what you're saying is that instead of for their Halloween getting candy, they get a crazy mist that turns you into abominations.
Correct.
Huh. I like our spec.
Yeah, no, it's pretty sick. And that's our Shadow Isles, without getting into a lot of the characters. But the big players in the Shadow Isles were, like, for at least the origins, are Viego, Callista, and Hecarim. But there is the Cruel Warden, who he got turned into a Chain Warden. Thresh. He got when the mist enveloped him, he now walks around with a lantern and a scythe on a hook, and he reaps any mortal souls that come in. And there were two people on the island at the time of the it's called the Ruination when it happened. That is why Viego is the ruined king. And there are two people who were able to survive the mist. Well, two creatures. One of them was a monk named Yorick, and he only survived because he had a vial of holy water around his neck. And there was a tree named Maokai. He was a magical tree that he went underground, and he dunk his roots inside of, like he planted his roots inside of holy water, and was able to withstand it like that.
Either way, it doesn't sound very pleasant.
No, they were not happy to see their home just turned into that.
So did the monk team up with the tree, or are
Uh,
they still stuck there?
I believe Yorick roams around and helps other. I think he helps people pass on. I'm not exactly sure what his role is in the Shadow Isles right now.
We'll get into that when we deep dive it.
Indeed. Um, and that is our third and fourth place. And our last place is so the Shadow Isles are like really they're probably like my favorite place aesthetically because I love all the ghostly stuff and whatever. But my absolute favorite place is a nation called Noxus, and they got a lot of territory.
Hmm.
um, and now Noxus, instead of also this is where the Immortal Bastion is. They created their city around Mordekaiser's Immortal Bastion. Um,
Oh,
hmm And Noxus is a place of strength. If Noxus prides itself on saying that if you are within the empire of Noxus, no matter who you are, your birthright, who your parents are, what your bloodline is, who whether you're rich, whether you're poor, all this stuff doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is your usefulness to the Noxian Empire. If you are useful, you are respected. Like people who can wield magic are highly coveted by Noxus. They're like, no, 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 come in. Like we want to. Like you could be super helpful to Noxus. You can either, maybe you can be a builder and start building things up more. Maybe you're an offensive mage and you can get into the military. But Noxus loves to give everyone a chance to rise up for the betterment of Noxus. Um, and it is very violent. They love to war because they want to expand their nation as much as possible. Um, and the way that they actually go about doing this, and the way that Noxus spreads its influence, is they have something called the Triferics or the Triferics. I don't know exactly how it's pronounced, um, but basically they have instead of having like one king or one ruler, they have three people on top of a council, and the reason is because if one were to go rogue, the other two are there to hold them accountable. Um,
oh,
so
that's kind of
so
cool.
Noxus, in theory, Noxus can never become corrupt because as soon as one person becomes corrupt, the other two can just get him off the
I
council.
feel like that leads to a lot of scheming between like, hey, if we team up, we can take this guy out.
You would think, um, but the Triferics are all very, very like, no, 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 we want the betterment of Noxus. Um, so you would think that they would have a lot of corruption in there, but they don't because they all actually want the same goal. Um,
Oh,
the three people on the council are Swain, Darius, and the third person. Actually, for a while, we all thought it was LeBlanc, um, but it's not. Apparently, it's someone who I don't think has been revealed. Um, but the each member represents something: vision, might, and guile. Um, the vision being the more like the politics and the actual like communications of Noxus and the public figures of it. Basically, the actual like kind of like the governmental sides of things. You have the might, which is your army, the entire like the unstoppable army that is Noxus, and then you have guile, which is your cunningness and your like assassins and things like that. And that's why a lot of people thought LeBlanc led it because uh, LeBlanc has been around for a long time. LeBlanc was actually part of Mordekaiser's original like court. So she's been around for like years, um, and she is the matron of something called the Black Rose, and that is a group that is dedicated to taking down. Jericho Swain. Uh, which is a little bit hard because Jericho Swain, he represents vision on the council. And by God, is he a visionary? His full name Jericho Swain, and is he's like a master tactician. The people who work with him, they say that that a lot of the times the saying is, always be one step ahead of your enemy. And Swain takes that to an extreme, and he's always 10 steps ahead. Uh, he is he is also known as the usurper because uh, I believe the king of Noxus before was his name is Darkim, something like that. But Swain like overthrew the Noxian Empire and became and informed the Triforix. And Noxus doesn't like kings. No kings, no rulers, just Noxus. uh,
But aren't they rulers as a council?
they have they are rulers individually, but they none of them each have like Darius can't make a decision without like they can't make a big decision without Swain and the other one agreeing. Um, they can't just enact laws whenever they want. They actually have a big kind of consultant or consultation meeting about like anything that basically they want to do, um, except for well, even the military actually. Darius is known as the Hand of Noxus, and he's known as that because uh, he leads the entire like the military has their own like corps and whatnot, but um, Darius is at the head of every military operation. Like he will always there is no one above Darius except maybe Swain. But that's only because they work together a lot because Swain is a master tactician and Darius doesn't know how to retreat. Um, like to a not even really to a fault because he almost always wins.
Does he ever do a tactical retreat?
No.
As in like a feint, like where you fall back and then come back?
No, that's cowardly.
Really?
When
Hey,
Darius
look, man.
when
I'm a rogue and a thief, so this dying for honor shit means nothing to me.
uh
So
Darius there was a battle that Noxus was fighting, and Darius hadn't become the Hand of Noxus yet. He was still just like he wasn't like a low level soldier, but he wasn't like a high rank captain either. But anyway, so they were fighting, and his commander ordered a retreat because the enemy way massively outnumbered them, and Darius said, "No, we're gonna win this," and the commander was like, "No, we're going to retreat." Darius didn't like that, and so he took his axe and beheaded the commander and took over the troops and said, "You either die to them or you die to me." And they won.
I mean that's pretty good motivation.
Yeah, it was, and the Noxians pushed back the enemy, and they won. And Darius quickly rose the ranks because Darius isn't actually from originally. He's not from Noxus. He's from like a small town outside of the Empire. But that town eventually got like it became part of the Noxian Empire, and that's how he was able to rise up. Because once you are part of the Empire, Noxus recognizes anyone who comes from their empire. So as soon as you're a part of it, you immediately have the chance to start rising up if you can
So
hold your
they're
shit.
so they're like Rome. When they were expanding, it's like you are now part of us, and
Yeah, pretty
you,
much.
you deal with it.
Um, they're often perceived as like the bad guys, but it's kind of all how you look
Well,
at it.
I was gonna say, as a conquering nation, yeah, that's usually seen as a bad thing.
Um, and they really don't like Demacia, because Demacia is very much a hierarchy, right? With like all their like they have a king and then whatnot.
So is this almost like a chaos versus order kind of deal?
Kind of. There aren't really like they've gone to war before, and like the Noxian Demacian War was really big, but they're not. I wouldn't really say nations have like actual like full rivals. But if anyone was like that rival nation, it would be Demacia.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my favorite thing about Noxus is that no matter who you are, like they are legitimately a melting pot. You can be anyone and earn respect and rank in the military or in wherever you really want to go, as long as you can prove useful to Noxus, which I think is pretty dope.
So it's almost like a. Nope, never mind. I was gonna say it's almost communist, but that's not quite.
No,
That's a different kind of feel.
yeah. Uh, there's I'm trying not to go into like super detail about a lot of the characters, but like um, there's so many cool ones. Like Darius has a brother named Draven, who is the glorious executioner. He he puts on a show for his executions, and like people can come out. It's kind of like Rome in that way, where basically they have the Colosseum, and Draven will give people like the chance to run and whatever, and he'll just start throwing his axes at them.
Got to put on that show.
Pretty much. Uh, but I think that's kind of all I had. Um, Noxus is a it's just I really really like it in just its aesthetic of like everyone for Noxus and
So kind of that sense of being united.
yeah, they're really cool in that. And I think that's where we're gonna kind of leave off for today with the different nations.
So what are the ones we're gonna cover next time then?
So next time, I plan to cover um, Ionia, Bilgewater, the small little bit about Ixtatal, a little bit about Shurima, and we'll probably talk a decent amount about Targon, and we'll talk about a lot of the old gods and whatnot. But I think, and yeah, we're gonna try to get those five into there. If not, we'll probably cover uh, Ixtatal and Bandle City maybe in like one kind of video or one episode.
All right.
But yeah, I think that's all I really have. Do you have any questions?
Not that I can think of. Was trying to. I was. I think pretty much asked any of them as you were going.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a lot of interaction between all the different countries and stuff too, or is it just like is there a lot of like a little wars and skirmishes kind of stuff that gets talked about?
So there are a lot of stories um, that go into the individual nations and whatnot. Like, uh, but for actual big like events, um, I don't know if they. Noxus is probably always at war with someone, um, and Ionia and Noxus had a huge interaction at one point, and one of my favorite characters actually came out of that war, and one of my favorite characters is Cain. He came out of the Ionian and Noxian War, and but like I don't think Noxus really like does a lot to invade on Freljord, and I think it's more of a like kind of like a Russia thing where their landscape is so only they understand it because it's so icy and like a big tundra.
Okay, so no one kind of wants to go and invade them.
Well, that yeah, as well as the Freljord's kind of always at war with itself. Freljord's like one big civil war.
I would say they reminded me almost like a Chinese Viking kind of is like China in like the sense of like they're fractured and trying to unite,
Yeah.
and then they kind of look like Vikings from the videos and stuff I've seen.
Yeah, well, they have a lot of they do have a lot of Scandinavian influence for some of the characters. Like there is one that is just Olaf, and he is like his whole thing is that he's just a berserker. Like
Well, there you
his
go.
ultimate is even just called Ragnarok. Um,
From what I understand, that's a weird name for it because isn't that just the end of the world?
yeah, so it's basically like it's supposed to say that like because Ragnarok is unstoppable, it makes him unstoppable, and like you can't stop him.
Oh, so he's like focusing the power of Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, some of these places are really really cool. The I would actually one of the things I would actually really like to do is read some of the stories on here because I think like some of the longer ones, maybe not the shorter ones, but there's like one of the ones for Noxus is called Strength and Power, and that one's a really really cool one. It actually shows like someone or talks about like someone like going to meet the council, uh, like the Triferex and whatnot, and you see like Darius just command this. They have something called the Trifarian Legion, and they are like the elite of the elite of the elite kind of guard, and like Darius just like commands them with just like a chin notion or motion. Doesn't even say a word, and they like know exactly what they want him to do because they're so disciplined by him.
Damn,
Um,
that's that's well trained.
there are actual like there have been full like cities or like full like armies that have just surrendered as soon as they've seen Darius's banners because they're like it's not worth it. Just give up.
That's when you know you're powerful.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
Darius is a not a force to be reckoned with because you know as if Darius is coming into the battle, that means a lot of Noxus is coming into the battle.
Okay, so basically, yeah, if you see him, then he's gonna have a massive army with him.
Hmm. But yeah, that's our little exploration into Runeterra today. Um, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope everyone listening enjoyed. Um, and yeah, we had I had a good time. I hope everyone enjoyed. I hope people are excited to hear part two. Um, and Dave, where can you find us?
You can find us on YouTube under Learning the Legend, and I believe you can also find us on Spotify.
Indeed. Uh, I think we're also on like Google Podcasts and things like that. So if you're into that, we're on there now as well.
Ooh.
But yeah, no, I didn't realize either until I got a couple emails that were like, "Hey, you're on these."
Google is
Yeah,
everywhere.
apparently they're like, "We want it." And I'm like, "Okay." Um, Also, I want to give a huge shout out to a man named Necrit. Uh, Anyone go on YouTube, youtube.com, Necrit, look him up. He is a huge League of Legends lore guy. I try not to use his stuff like for research, whatever, because it's his content. But he is great if you wanna. If there are some things that are like even I that I'm like I don't know how I'm gonna compile all this. Uh, and so if there are some things that he might explain better than I can. So please go check him out. He's amazing, and where I get a lot of the inspiration, at least, not necessarily information. Um, but yes, like Dave said, YouTube, Spotify, go listen, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and share.
Yes, please do. Share it with everyone. Talk about it. Bye, goodbye.
Bye bye.